11. Jinping, the political journey of China's most powerful leader. In the winter of 1953, in a hospital in Beijing, a child was born into the very heart of Communist China's ruling elite. His name was Xi Jinping. Few could have predicted that this boy, born into privilege and then cast into the countryside as a teenager, would one day become the most powerful man to lead China since Mao Zedong himself. This is the story of that journey, a story of purges and comebacks, provincial obscurity and national power, quiet patience and, ultimately, near total control. Part 1. The Princeling Who Fell. Xi Jinping was born on June 15, 1953, the son of Xi Zhongsun, a revolutionary hero who had fought alongside Mao Zedong during the founding of the People's Republic of China. Xi Zhongsun rose to become vice premier of the country, and his family lived inside the walled compounds reserved for China's ruling class. Young Xi Jinping grew up surrounded by the children of generals and ministers, a member of what the Chinese call the Princelings, the sons and daughters of the revolutionary founders. But privilege in communist China has always been fragile. In the early 1960s, Xi Zhongsun fell out of favor with the party leadership and was purged from his position. Then came the Cultural Revolution, the decade of chaos that Mao unleashed beginning in 1966. Xi Zhongsun was imprisoned, his family was torn apart. Xi Jinping, still a teenager, watched his father dragged through public struggle sessions. He himself was targeted as the son of a class enemy, briefly detained, and eventually sent away from Beijing entirely. At the age of 15, Xi Jinping was sent to Liangjiahe, a poor village carved into the lush hills of Shaanxi province. This was part of Mao's Down to the Countryside movement, which sent millions of urban youth to labor alongside peasants. For 7 years, Xi lived in a cave dwelling, worked the fields, and by his own later accounts, struggled to be accepted by the other villagers, who were suspicious of the son of a disgraced official. It would have been easy to see this period as the end of a promising family story. Instead, it became the foundation of a political myth. Xi later credited these years with teaching him resilience and connecting him to the struggles of ordinary Chinese people, a narrative the Communist Party would later amplify heavily as he rose to power. While in Liangjiahe, Xi applied for Communist Party membership repeatedly. He was rejected multiple times, largely because of his father's fall from grace. He was eventually accepted in 1974, and shortly after was made the local party branch secretary. Part 2. Building from the bottom. After Mao's death in 1976 and the political thaw that followed, Xi Zhongsun was rehabilitated, and doors that had been closed to his son began to reopen. Xi Jinping enrolled at Tsinghua University in Beijing, one of China's most elite institutions, studying chemical engineering before shifting toward political theory. Upon graduating in 1979, Xi took a position as a secretary to Geng Biao, the Minister of Defense and a close associate of his father. This was a comfortable, prestigious post in the capital, the kind of position many ambitious officials would have clung to for as long as possible. Xi did something unusual. In 1982, he requested a transfer away from Beijing, down into the provinces, to a minor position as Deputy Party Secretary of Jiangding County in Hebei Province. Colleagues and biographers have suggested this was a calculated move. Real political credibility in China required grassroots administrative experience, not just a title in the capital. It worked. Over the following 2 decades, Xi steadily climbed the ranks of provincial government, almost entirely outside the spotlight of national politics. He served as an official in Xiamen, then in Ningde, then in Fuzhou, moving through Fujian Province, a coastal region across from Taiwan, for nearly 2 decades. He later became governor of Fujian, then briefly governor of neighboring Zhejiang Province, before rising to become Zhejiang's party secretary in 2002. Throughout these years, Xi built a reputation very different from the flamboyant, reform-minded officials who often grabbed headlines. He was cautious, disciplined, and notably free of major corruption scandals, a rarity in a system where graft was endemic among local officials. He avoided controversy, he avoided enemies, and crucially, he avoided drawing too much attention from party elders who might see him as a threat. Part 3. The Unexpected Rise. The turning point came in 2007. Shanghai, China's financial capital, was rocked by a corruption scandal that brought down its party secretary. The Communist Party needed someone with a clean record to take over and restore order. Xi Jinping was appointed. He held the position for only 7 months, but it was enough. Later that year, at the Communist Party's 18th National Congress, Xi was elevated to the Politburo Standing Committee, the 9-member body that sits at the very top of Chinese political power. He was now firmly positioned as a likely successor to General Secretary Hu Jintao. In 2008, Xi became Vice President of China. In 2010, he was named Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission, a position widely seen as the final stepping stone before assuming full leadership. Throughout this period, Xi remained a relatively quiet, unassuming figure to outside observers, which some analysts have suggested was precisely why competing factions within the party found him an acceptable compromise candidate. In November 2012, at the 18th Party Congress, Xi Jinping was formally elected General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party and Chairman of the Central Military Commission. The following March, he was named President of the People's Republic of China. At the age of 59, the boy who had once lived in a cave in rural Shaanxi now stood at the head of the world's most populous nation. Part 4. Consolidating Power. What followed surprised many observers who had expected a cautious, consensus-driven leader in the mold of his immediate predecessors. Xi launched a sweeping anti-corruption campaign almost immediately after taking office, one that would eventually investigate and punish over 1 million officials, from lowly bureaucrats, described in party language as flies, to senior leaders, described as tigers. Among those brought down were former security chief Zhou Yongkang and several top generals, men who a decade earlier would have seemed politically untouchable. Supporters framed this campaign as a genuine effort to clean up systemic corruption that had eroded public trust in the party. Critics, both inside and outside China, argued that the campaign also functioned as a highly effective tool for eliminating political rivals and consolidating personal power, since the investigations disproportionately targeted officials connected to rival factions. Alongside the corruption purges, Xi moved to centralize authority in ways not seen since the era of Deng Xiaoping. He created new leadership groups, chaired personally by himself, overseeing everything from economic reform to cybersecurity to military modernization. He introduced Xi Jinping thought into the party constitution in 2017, placing his name and ideology alongside Mao Zedong's as a guiding doctrine for the nation, an honor no leader since Mao had received while still in office. Then, in 2018, came perhaps the most consequential change of his tenure. The National People's Congress voted to abolish the 2-term limit on the presidency, a limit that had been in place since the 1990s specifically to prevent a return to Mao-style one-man rule. The move cleared the path for Xi to remain in power indefinitely. State media described it as a necessary alignment between the presidency and his other titles, which carried no term limits. Human rights groups and many foreign governments described it as the dismantling of one of the key safeguards against authoritarian overreach that China had built after the trauma of the Cultural Revolution. Part 5. China on the world stage. Domestically, Xi's era has been defined by tightened party control over nearly every aspect of Chinese life: media, technology companies, religious practice, and civil society. Internationally, it has been defined by ambition on a scale rarely seen in Chinese foreign policy. In 2013, Xi unveiled the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive global infrastructure and investment program spanning ports, railways, and pipelines across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America. Proponents describe it as the largest infrastructure development effort in modern history, lifting developing nations through Chinese-financed construction. Critics describe it as a tool of debt-driven influence, leaving some smaller nations financially dependent on Beijing. Xi has also overseen a dramatic expansion and modernization of China's military, alongside an increasingly assertive posture in the South China Sea and toward Taiwan, which Beijing considers a breakaway province destined for eventual reunification, by force if necessary. His tenure has also been marked by significant international controversy. Under his leadership, China constructed a vast system of internment camps in Xinjiang, officially described by Beijing as vocational training centers aimed at combating extremism among the Uyghur Muslim population. Multiple governments and human rights organizations have characterized the policies differently, alleging mass detention, forced labor, and cultural suppression, allegations the Chinese government has consistently and firmly rejected. In Hong Kong, the imposition of a sweeping national security law in 2020 followed months of pro-democracy protests and dramatically curtailed the political freedoms the territory had been promised would remain intact for 50 years after its 1997 handover from Britain. And in early 2020, the emergence of COVID-19 in Wuhan placed Xi's government under intense global scrutiny, both for its early handling of the outbreak and for the extraordinarily strict, years-long lockdown policies it later imposed on hundreds of millions of citizens. Policies that were only abruptly reversed in late 2022, following rare public protests in multiple Chinese cities. Part 6. An unprecedented third term. In October 2022, at the 20th Party Congress, Xi Jinping secured a third term as General Secretary, becoming the first Chinese leader since Mao Zedong to hold the position for more than 10 years. He stacked the Politburo Standing Committee with loyalists, removing potential rivals, and consolidating an inner circle almost entirely composed of officials with long personal ties to him. The symbolism of the moment was reinforced by an extraordinary scene broadcast to the world. Former President Hu Jintao, Xi's immediate predecessor, was escorted out of the closing ceremony of the Congress in full view of international cameras, in circumstances that remain disputed, but which many observers interpreted as a pointed display of the old guard's diminished standing. Since then, Xi has continued to govern with the same blend of ideological discipline and centralized control that has characterized his entire tenure, steering China through a slowing economy, an aging population, and an increasingly complex relationship with the United States and its allies, all while positioning himself by design without any clear successor or timeline for eventual departure. Closing. From a cave dwelling in Shaanxi province to the most powerful office in Beijing, Xi Jinping's political journey is, in many ways, the story of modern China itself, a nation shaped by revolutionary upheaval, disciplined ambition, and an unwavering belief in centralized control as the path to national strength. Whether history remembers him as the leader who restored China's global standing, or as the man who dismantled the checks his own party had built against another Mao, is a question that remains very much unwritten. What is certain is this: the boy once rejected from the Communist Party for his father's disgrace now stands as its most powerful leader in half a century.